Hey, this is Makossiri, and you're listening to Radio Mapinduzi.
Oh, what's up, lovely people? Today, this is a beautiful day outside, and this is yet another episode of Radio Mapinduzi. I'm Sayanka, your host for today. And today we have a beautiful, flamboyant, magical guest with us, as you can see. So I think, should I allow her to introduce herself?
My name is Makossiri.
Yeah.
I'm a DJ, music producer, fashion designer. Yeah.
Lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for being here. Looking flamboyant, looking dapper, as always.
Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. As our pleasure. Yeah, thank you. So I think I'll just get right into it. So who is Makossiri and what does Makossiri do?
Makossiri is an artist. I make music. I produce music. I also DJ, and I'm also into fashion. I have a fashion brand called Queen Osiris. Yeah. And I'm really just quite interested in just like art in general, and that kind of stuff.
It's lovely. So at what point did you get yourself involved in art and music as a career and as a life journey?
As a career, I would say 2016.
Yeah.
That's when I started doing it professionally, but I've always just like loved music. I would sing in my dad's church because my dad and my stepmom were like preachers.
Yeah.
So that's where I really just like started singing in the choir. And then I also like in school, I also just like sang in the singing games and the drama clubs. And then I went to uni to study drama and theater. And then I also started just like getting so involved in the music scene there. I was studying at Maseno University.
Cool.
So I just started getting involved in the music scene there. I started like playing with bands. And then later on, I bought my first guitar and came to Nairobi and just like started playing, writing my own songs, performing live.
Yeah.
And then after that, in 2017, I moved to Uganda.
Okay.
It just seemed so interesting just looking from afar.
Oh, really?
I attended the Nyege Nyege festival and I was so mind blown by the music that was being played there. So I was like, oh, let me just go and check out what's happening here because it was quite different from what I had had growing up in Kenya.
Yeah.
But like subconsciously, it felt like it's something I really wanted. So just seeing people express themselves in that way, just made me want to go to Uganda. And then after that, I started just like getting more involved in the music, organizing events, and then I started DJing. And then during the pandemic in 2020, I started producing music. And that has been my journey so far.
Oh, that's wild. So let me ask you, along your journey, when you started when you got your guitar,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can remember the brand of the guitar. I'm not sure if you feel that attached to it, first and foremost.
I was attached to it, but what was the brand again? I've forgotten the brand.
Do you still have it? Or you lost it at some point? Oh my days.
Stuff happened when I was in Uganda and then I lost it.
Oh, okay.
So there was a moment, where I didn't have it and then I had to rely on other people to play for me.
Yeah.
And that's actually even when I started DJing.
Ah, really?
Yeah, because there was this day I was organizing an event and I was supposed to perform.
Yeah.
And then my guitarist just told me on that same day that he had gone to the village. So I was like, seriously, on the day of the gig? So I really had to, figure things out real quick and see what I'm going to do. And then I had done like a bit of like music production and DJing trainings.
Yeah.
That were organized by FM Electronic and Santuri. So a friend of mine was like, yo, you've done a couple of courses. I think you can just try out today and just like DJ. So on that day, I just like did it for the first time and I loved it. And
so that was in Uganda?
That was in Uganda.
Oh, okay. So when you were in Nairobi, before you headed there, had you started experimenting with your sounds and your genres? When you started off making music,
Yeah.
were you experimenting with genres like straight off the bat, or did you first just do the contemporary guitar strings, strings of love?
The thing is,
yeah.
right now there's like diverse music,
Yeah.
but initially there wasn't like a lot of diverse music that you'd hear on the radio, you know?
That's true.
So I just like didn't hear anything that was so different, you know, for me to just like off the bat start experimenting.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just like playing acoustic folk, punk, guitar, and then when now I started like getting into the DJing scene, you know, that's when I realized that actually I really loved like a different type of music, you know. And then when I got to producing, I just like also just like realized actually I like a few elements, you know, some elements that are quite different. I love like industrial noise. I love like the 909 kick. I like how it kind of, you know, hits hard. Yeah. So with that, you know, with that process, that's when I realized like what I really want. And that's when I really like started experimenting. Yeah.
Makes sense, because like the more you get exposed to something new, the more you grow an affinity to it.
Yeah, so but also if you're open to it.
Exactly. You also have to be open-minded enough to take it in. It makes sense, because like when you're growing up, like a lot of artists have had speak about like how they got into something. They were first exposed like when they were kids.
Yeah.
And the more they got exposed or they were getting older, they either stuck to it or like grew an affinity to something else, even outside their common space. So it would kind of make sense that the more you're exposed, so it makes sense like the more you're exposed to something, and you're open-minded enough to take it in, you can grow an affinity to it and just build from there.
Yeah, that's so
that
true.
Makes sense. So which brings me to my next question. What is your understanding or your perception of the electronic scene or like music in Africa, or the alternative electronic music in East Africa, Kenya?
I will talk about East Africa. I feel like the electronic music scene is really bubbling. And I mean, if you see whatever is happening in Uganda, there's like the big festival Nyege Nyege. And Nyege Nyege has really created a very safe space for artists to really experiment and just like break boundaries, you know, so you can just like make whatever kind of music you want to make, you know, and it's also a community of people who also organize events. You know, the DJs, the artists, they are the ones also who are organizing events by themselves. So with that, if you're just creating your own music and then your friends are plugging you in to like play events, you know, you're able to just like be free, play whatever you want, you know. And that has really kind of like made the quality of electronic music that's in Uganda really high. It's kind of futuristic. People are experimenting with different genres. They're creating their own genres. They really don't want to be the same as the next person. So people are just like, I want to create something different from whatever this other person has created. When it comes to Kenya, there is a lot of diversity. But also it's more kind of like one-sided, whereby maybe the genres that were built first, like maybe house, has like they've like really taken over in a way that there's really no space for other people to kind of like do their own thing, you know. And this is also just from experience, me just like also just coming to play here, you know, and people wondering, oh, what are you playing, you know?
What's that?
And also just other artists, other Kenyan artists who are also living in Uganda, like Slickback, you know, Duma. But I feel like there's a lot of diversity. For the time that I've spent here, I've just like met so many producers, you know, just creating their stuff on the down low and just like not caring, which is good. And I feel like maybe in the next couple of years, we'll have like really diverse electronic sounds.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
In Tanzania, there's really a lot that's happening in terms of like they have a genre called Singeli. That's, oh my God, it's just like taken over that place. It's so fast paced, and it also has like traditional elements to it. It's getting like really like international recognition, you know, and also it's like it's homebred. So
Yes,
it
yes.
has taken
Very
over
authentic.
Tanzania, and it's also just taken over Europe too.
Yeah.
So that's really good. Yeah. So I feel like East Africa is really it's becoming a center point of like electronic music.
Melting point, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So you've mentioned something about the initial genres in the electronic scene here
Yeah.
still dominating to date.
Yeah.
So I see it as people having this perception of like, oh wow, so there's electronic music, and then you see, oh my god, oh, so there's house, there's Afro house.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do,
Yeah.
So there's not much space for other eclectic or eccentric producers and creators.
Yeah, but
to
also
just do
that
things
comes
outside.
yeah, that also comes from exposure because they're also
Yes.
not exposed to
Yes.
other different sounds,
Yes.
for them to
Yes.
choose a different path.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's lovely. That's lovely. So building up on that, so there's a region, I feel like a region or the space you're in and the environment, because that kind of cuts across like the thing you're exposed to, your environment.
Yeah.
So how much of a factor, how much prominence you think it has in the terms in how the music is created and how, or the sound the people, the creators give or express themselves in. So because you've said this Singeli in Tanzania,
Yeah.
Uganda, there's also a whole other spectrum of music.
Yeah.
And Kenya, there's also a spectrum of music,
Yeah.
but the less known genres, the less commercialized genres are not as known or not doing as well as some other prominent genres are.
Yeah.
So how much does it really bear a heavy factor, the environment you're in?
It does. It
For sure.
does. It does.
For sure.
Because if you're in a space where you are not allowed to maybe think outside the box,
Yeah.
like it's a crime to think outside the box.
Yeah.
You won't think outside the box, If you're in an environment where, oh wow, everyone is thinking outside the box, you just be like, sawa, I have to. So environment really plays a huge role.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. So still on genres and explorations.
Yeah.
I think I came across Afro future tech. So mind sharing, just shed light on that for us.
Yeah. So Afrofuture tech is the genre I use to describe my music.
Yeah.
So which is like just a mixture of like techno, and then there's like industrial noise.
Yeah.
There's like traditional drums, folky drums. There's also just like a bit more of like trance, side trance. So because I felt like I really liked when I just like opened up my mind and started like researching more on electronic music and listening to different genres of electronic music, and just like actually realizing that I love different elements that I couldn't like just specify like, oh, I do techno, So I was like, okay, fine. I feel like this is more like a futuristic techno because I really use the 909 drums, which is more of like a techno kick. Yeah, so I just decided to just like call it Afrofuture tech.
Lovely. We love to see it. And you had an EP you released. Was it last year or early this year? Was it late last year?
Yeah, it was in October last year.
Yeah, mind sharing anything about it?
The EP is called Juicy Juicy.
Yeah.
And it was just like also my first attempt at like really producing, and also
sharing your sound.
Yeah, sharing my sound out to the world. Also just like me finding myself, because it's been a journey, starting from like really acoustic folk music to get into like electronic music and feeling like actually this is really what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is how I want to express myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just what the EP was also just about, expressing myself and putting it out there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. So do you feel like there's a need to propel this Afrofuture tech, this Singeli sound outside its very familiar and intimate spaces, be it here in Kenya, be it in Uganda, Kampala, be it in Tanzania?
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a need to propel this sound because it gives an authentic vibe, an authentic feeling, or authentic identity to the people of the space? Because We've had conversations, my friends, people, some artists who've been interviewing and having these conversations that, oh my God, Kenya doesn't have a sound. There's been that whole conversation about Kenya not having a sound.
Yeah.
So it might come from just people not being able to find spaces to authentically express themselves in the sound, come up with sounds and just things. So do you feel like there's a need for that to happen, for like us to propel further?
Yeah, so I'll just try and pick up on what you said first about like Kenya doesn't have a sound.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just like a losing game.
For sure.
Like us trying to get one sound when we are so diverse, know?
Yes.
So I don't know. I really, in terms of that like debate, I'm always just like, we have so much diversity.
Yeah.
We shouldn't like try and just like push one sound. We should just like be open to, like express ourselves, express who we are, and, just let it come out into the world. And it's really quite important to just like actually push the music outside of Kenya,
Yeah.
And this also just like creates income also to the artist, know. When you're playing in different places, not just like maybe Nairobi, you're also just like creating income and also just like coming back to invest in the country, So I think it's important for also for other people to know like there's actually something happening in Kenya musically, So pushing it and promoting it out of the familiar spaces is really quite important.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so with your experience, do you feel at the places you've been in so far, in Uganda, Tanzania, Zanzibar, do you feel that there's something that's being done different in that sense that is not happening in Kenya or has not been happening in Kenya so far, as far as pushing sounds, like authentic sounds from the region to these places outside? Do you feel like you've seen something being done different outside that's not being done here?
In terms of maybe I would say maybe Uganda, there's Nyege Nyege. And Nyege Nyege has really done a huge, like a really important work in trying to really promote the alternative scene in East Africa. And so just like them doing that, and then they've also just been working also with the Singeli artists to just like promote it in Europe. But still with Singeli, it's really like a homegrown sound that's also taken over in
the same space.
In the same space. Exactly. Yeah. So maybe I would say like maybe infrastructures, like in Kenya, maybe we really don't have those infrastructures like that help us to cross boundaries, the bridges between maybe Kenya and Ghana or Kenya and Berlin, so those are the bridges that are still not there, the infrastructure,
They're not found in place.
Yeah.
That's interesting to
What's there that's not in Uganda? I mean, Kenya is quite huge. It's really a huge scene. Yeah. Uganda is such a small scene, but like from outside, you would think it's really a huge scene,
Because there's so much output coming out of
that. Yeah, there's so much. There's so much output. Yeah.
It's interesting to know and find out. Hopefully, you'll invite us to Uganda soon.
Yeah, for sure.
To also find Kenyan and Ugandan artists to feature Redio Mapinduzi.
Yeah, nice.
So I think leading up to the last question, you've mentioned something about the connections between cities and countries.
Yeah.
So in my observation and my friend's observation, we've witnessed there's something going on between Nairobi, Berlin, Kampala, sometimes Mombasa. There's this cultural exchange of artists and music being produced, compilations being made.
Yeah.
What's your perception of like what do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's really a good thing, and mostly to our Kenyan industry.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, having artists maybe come from Uganda who are also just like doing whatever they're doing, like they don't give a fuck about the music they make, you know?
Yeah.
And then they come into this space where, there's a bit of structure in, like maybe it's just this one sound that's kind of like taking over. But also just like having that cross-pollination and the relationships that people are building with like producers to producers is also like really helping the industry in terms of like now the producers, they are like, actually there's like different types of music, that are also being made by African people like us who are just like next door.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can actually, like just put myself out there and create what I really resonate with from my heart.
Yes.
Because I also feel like sometimes most producers usually just like when they start out, they're making actually whatever they're supposed to make, like their truest expression.
Yes.
But like when they go out here and then they hear what other people are playing, they're like, I mean, I don't think that's really good. They start doubting their music and then they start like adapting to what they see other people doing.
Yes,
So
true.
So the cross-pollination is really helping people to just like open up their minds. It's the exposure thing that's happening.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really well. So, building on what you just said about artists starting out, having a very authentic sound, like a very authentic expression of themselves. That's something I think cuts across literally every artist, because when you're trying to find something out, like you don't even know how to use Ableton or FL Studio, like, oh my God, I want to do this. But and then you actually come out with something at the end of the day, no matter how trash or good it is, depending on how you see it. Like it's a very authentic expression of yourself.
Yeah, true.
So that's usually, for the most part, intuition based.
Yeah.
So the more you grow and the more you start interacting with other spaces and people, you kind of start getting the knowledge, or like, oh, so this is how it's meant to be done, and then you start losing intuition, like the intuition
exactly,
like
true.
just authentically expressing yourself as an artist. I think that's also something I really vouch for artists. It's not hard to come back to, for the most part, especially like when and if you don't realize it, you know? But I think it's something artists should really have, and nurturing themselves, the intuition of just creating based on what you want. That's really
like
interesting.
trust your intuition while you're creating.
That's really interesting. Thank you very much for the input and your knowledge and your wisdom and your sharing experience. I'm not sure if you have any parting shots, words for any listener, any artist, any creative, any person in the infrastructure who's meant to build something for the industry and for the musical sound in East Africa and Kenya. Any last words?
I mean, I would just say first and foremost is just like trust yourself, trust your intuition in whatever you're creating. Because everyone has their own different expression. You just can't try and be like the other person. Try and be you. Try and create what resonates with you. And also I feel like people should also just like, I mean, the intellectuals, people who've studied music business, people who've like really done events, to just try and professionalize the industry, and just like try and build the structures. If you have knowledge in this, try and just like build something instead of waiting, because I feel like we've had that culture of always maybe waiting for the outside people, like maybe white people, to come and save us, while we have all the knowledge, all the wisdom, to just like create these structures by ourselves. So it's nice to also just work with other people. Like work with, have the cross-pollination between Europe and Africa, but it's also good for Africa to just like create its own structures. For the future.
That's lovely. Thank you very much for that very valuable insight you shared with us today. Thank you for gracing this beautiful space of ours with your presence. Yes, we hope to see you soon and interact with you more soon. Would you mind sharing your handles, whatever project you're working on? Any social media, whatever you just want to share about yourself and your work, where people can find you?
People can find me on Instagram at Makossiri, YouTube Makossiri, SoundCloud Makossiri. I'm currently doing a challenge, an 8-month challenge, where I'm just like putting out music every week. And I was invited to do this challenge by Basma, who's also like an alternative producer here in Nairobi. So check it out. If you're also a producer who wants to jump on the wave and just like create, and do your thing and put it out to the world without really doubting yourself so much, get on it.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I think as per my knowledge, you're meant to share a guest mix with us, which I think you shall share after this session. So thank you very much for gracing us.
All right.
Shout out to you.
Thank you too.
That was Redio Mapinduzi. I was your host, Sayanka. Tune into this. This is the sound of Nairobi, Kenya, East Africa. Till next time.